The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Oh, good morning and welcome to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host today, Rebecca Miller, along with co-host Otto Lohse. Good morning, Otto.
Rebecca. Good morning.
How are you?
Nice. It's a nice day today.
It's very nice, and I get to see you 2 mornings in a row, so that was very nice. We had a great meeting yesterday. Our guest today is Gregg Balbera, and Gregg is with Right at Home. And we're going to be talking a lot. We have a lot of questions for Gregg today. This is a home care agency and looking to get, I think a lot of really good advice from you today. So we can kind of get right to it. Because, I was speaking with Kristina, of course, about all the topics that you have presented today. And I told you what I'm really interested in, but I think it's really good to start off about what is a care plan and who is involved creating a care plan and, where do you start? Like, how do you start to even present creating, implementing a care plan?
First of all, thank you for inviting me and having me on Project Independence. Always love to come and speak with everybody about all these pressing topics for our seniors and mobility challenged adults. So a care plan is very simply, it's a tool to manage and organize your loved one's care. It really varies from person to person, from family to family, and it's very unique to the individual. Every individual has their unique set of circumstances, disabilities, issues, health issues, and also the family parameters are super important. I know one of the things that we were talking about off air earlier is for the family caregiver. So sometimes the care plan has to be structured around who in the family is providing care. Will outside care be provided by like an agency like Right at Home, the agency that I own here on Long Island? So there are lots of different issues to kind of sort through and figure out. As far as getting a care plan, oftentimes that starts for me, as an agency, that starts with us when we take an initial intake phone call from a potential client. We're really trying to surface a lot of the different information about the client, their age, their height, their weight. The weight of the client can be a big issue. Someone who's 150 pounds versus someone who's 275 pounds lends to a different type of caregiver, because you have to have someone who is strong enough if that person needs any type of physical assistance with transferring or helping them get up and down from a toilet or in and out of the shower. There's lots of different issues. We also have an RN on staff. We have a social worker on staff. So after that initial intake for us, we often are sending out either both our nurse or our social worker to kind of really dig deeper into that family and that person's unique set of circumstances to develop that care plan.
Go ahead, Otto.
Okay, I'll choose you. I went on your website, Gregg, and I found that adult caregiving guide, which I think is excellent. And before we leave here, we should let people know how they can get that. But within that, it made me think a lot about some situations I'm involved with. You have a needs assessment worksheet for adult caregivers, and it covers a lot of territory. It covers a lot of things besides what you just mentioned, that people really should think about. So an item like that checklist could really be very valuable when the family, the person, if they're capable of being involved with it, evaluating or assessing the situation. So I just wanted to point that out, that I think this kind of guide is very valuable.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. As you said, that's available on our website, www.rightathomeli.com. And that is absolutely, that is a great guide. Again, because everybody's situation is unique. And also a lot of times just, if you print that guide out or you're using it off the web, it's a great conversation starter. So for a lot of times people have to have difficult conversations. One of the things we'll talk about as we get into this conversation is that, the hesitancy of some seniors to get care. So having that guide is kind of as a framework to kind of really discuss maybe point by point the different issues that some people may or may not be thinking about, or just to open up conversations with adults.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who might be hesitant to have conversations, when you kind of go through that point by point, sometimes that kind of can open up some of the issues that they may not even realize that are problems, not necessarily for themselves, but how it's impacting their loved ones, a spouse, a family member, a caregiver from an outside agency like myself. Having that open and honest conversation can really be the gateway to accepting care down the road.
Yeah, it's something, it's hard to present it. It's always like we have a program called Circle of Support, which is similar to a care plan in a lot of ways. And one of the things that we try to do is to have people implement it or utilize it or just have it before they may need it. Because I think so many times these things fall upon us when all of a sudden now our parent needs help and everything's an urgent time. So a home care plan is an opportunity, to plan ahead. And also it gives the person that also opportunity to manage it themselves, if you kind of plan ahead. But I get it, like what you're saying, there's a lot of hesitancy in similar ways to like how people don't want to fill out their will. They don't want to think about that. But, it's always I think more beneficial if the person participating, the plan is about them, that they can take on some, manage it at this pre-planning stage,
Absolutely. If the person is cognitively able to be part of that conversation, if they're part of that conversation, I think you get a lot more buy-in from that person. They become much more willing and accepting of the help that they may need. We have to realize when we're having these conversations, a lot of times what this is entailing is somewhat of a surrendering of one's independence. And that can be really hard for a lot of people. Like as an example, like, taking away the keys or, someone who's no longer able to drive. I mean, taking away the car, meaning that you're housebound and you really have to rely on other people to go food shopping, to get to doctor's appointments, to go to the library, just, almost those things that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis. So giving up that independence can be really difficult for people. So, having that conversation early, if they're cognitively able to have those conversations, a lot of times that is, really the key first step to getting that care plan in place. And as we were kind of talking about earlier, what's different about home care is oftentimes people don't really think about it until it's upon them. Unlike, house shopping or car shopping, where you're thinking about it months, if not years in advance, and you're really kind of like planning step by step by step. And then when the time comes, you buy that car, you buy that house. Oftentimes with home care, something has just precipitated a situation, whether it's a fall and a broken hip, an illness, a sudden illness, where all of a sudden you have to have somebody in that home really providing that care immediately. It's a completely different situation. So wherever possible, planning ahead is highly advised.
Well, I go back, you indicated earlier, and I'm just looking at the checklist here. The trigger to have a conversation with something like this is really terrific. Like it on the checklist, which I can't show on the screen, but it says like activities of daily living. And then you have to address each of the items: bathing, toiletry, getting out of bed, getting out of a wheelchair. And then you had functional status, your hearing ability, your vision, your orientation. These are good checklists to get into an honest conversation with everybody involved, the caregiver and the person who is the one who needs the help, really. I could visualize this being a tremendous tool to have that conversation.
Absolutely, yes. So again, everyone should definitely check out the website and check out the care plan. And
Yeah, I'm
so
not
we have
selling that thing, by the way, but I think it's really, it really lit a light bulb up with me when I looked at it, because I've been involved in some situations, and I thought, had I had something like this to use as a guide, if you will, it would have been very, very helpful.
What's also great about the care plan is not everything on the care plan is going to be required or necessary today. So especially for those individuals, seniors who might be a little bit more hesitant, if you can give them a listen and you're saying, hey, yeah, maybe you need help with one or two of these items, but you don't need help with these other 7 or 8 or 9 items. It can kind of reinforce that they can still have that level of independence. And then we can really bring to the forefront, but hey, but on those other 2 items, we're just here to kind of help you along with, with those items that you need help with today. But we're going to let you keep doing the things that you can continue to do. And we want to, because that's going to keep your mind cognitively strong. It's going to keep you functioning. It's going to keep you engaged as much as possible. So, that's really a great tip when you're talking to someone, is that you don't want to kind of throw everything into like one bucket. We really want to approach things one by one, because every situation is unique, and we don't want to take away the items that and the activities that they can continue to do on their own.
Well, one of the things is like the question, you go down the list of needs, and then you say, who can handle these needs? Can you handle it yourself? Do you need somebody? Can the family member handle it? And if the answer is no, then that goes in the column where you need somebody to help you. And then the other question that came up, you obviously sold me with this guideline book, by the way. How much time is required by the person to do these things that we're talking about? Is it real? I mean, do the people who are the family members all have full-time jobs? How difficult will it be for them on a time scale to provide the required support?
Sure. Well, that opens up a whole great topic, because if you have family members who are providing care, you start talking about the toll that caregiving takes on the caregiver, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and then also just even from a financial position. If that person now has to start taking time away from their job, their work, their own industry, whatever they're doing on their own,
and their own family too, their kids, their spouse, right?
Correct. So if they're providing that care, maybe they're impacting themselves financially because they can't go to work or do the things that they were doing, because now they're providing that care for the loved one. So these issues kind of snowball and open up lots of other doors when we discuss family caregiving and hesitancy to care and the care plan.
Who is going to call you first? Who's calling right at home generally for assistance?
So again, every situation is unique.
Right.
We get calls sometimes from the individual themselves, if they're cognitively able, and sometimes they realize that they need the care and they're accepting and willing to have that care. We get the call from them. A lot of times we get calls from spouses. For better or worse means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but sometimes people just realize, hey, physically, especially for a wife perhaps who's taking care of a husband, they're just not strong enough. A 5'2", 105-pound, 85 woman starts to say to herself, I can't physically manage my husband, getting him in and out of the shower, on and off the commode, getting him dressed. So that becomes a topic. Sometimes it's the reverse, where the husband says, the husband really, maybe older gentlemen weren't as involved in rearing of the children. So things like, bathing and toileting, there's a old school mentality that they don't want to necessarily do that for their wives. It kind of changes the relationship. Many do, but many don't want to. We also get lots of calls from children, the adult children. They start to see, their parents starting to decline on lots of different levels. Oftentimes that takes place around holiday times. Kids come home around Thanksgiving, Christmas, July 4th. If they live out of town and they come home, all of a sudden they open up the fridge, and mom or dad used to be very fastidious. The fridge used to be fully well stocked, always fresh food. all of a sudden they come in and they open up the fridge door, either they see no food in there, or all of a sudden they see lots of foods in there that have expired or are spoiled. And it really starts to open eyes and open questions. So and we've also had neighbors call. Sometimes, sometimes our seniors just have no family. They don't have children, or their loved ones are gone. And it's amazing. Sometimes you see neighbors who don't have that family relationship, but yet they'll consider that neighbor almost like a family, and they get involved. That can be so special right there.
Right.
Yeah, I would think that the call that comes from the person themselves are the best ones, because the person really wants to help. But the calls that come from somebody else, now you're into a whole new world, I think.
Yeah, very, very, very unique situations, and every call has to be treated. Everyone is completely different, so we treat every situation as a unique situation with a care plan to be developed that really based on that person, their needs, and then also the family, what the family can, if there is a family, and if so, what they're going to be willing and able to provide. And if they're not, then that's why they're coming to us as an agency, so that we can step in and kind of act as that family advocate.
What about the cost factor? Do you take Medicare? Is there, what about like long-term health care? How does that all come into the picture?
So those are great questions. We right at home, we are a private care agency, so we personally don't work with Medicare. There are Medicare, Medicaid agencies, but we as a private agency, so we are working with either private funds. Many of our clients have long-term care insurance policies that they signed up for, 20 or 30 years ago, which is awesome if they had that foresight and planned ahead. These days, many life insurance policies also have long-term care riders. Some people are or are not aware that their life insurance policies can be used for that benefit. Some people who want to remain home and get their care in the home can take out reverse mortgages. A lot of our seniors bought their houses here on Long Island, and in the 60s or whatnot, paid $30,000-$50,000 for a house that today could be worth, $1 million or north of $1 million. A lot of our clients, we always try and surface. A lot of our clients are former teachers or worked in unions, and they have catastrophic care plans that they don't even realize. So a lot of times I try and make them aware that if they worked for a union, to go back and find out what those benefits might be. And then we also have a lot of vets.
We actually have to we'll come back to this. We do have to take a quick break. We're speaking with Gregg Balbera, and we're getting some great information on home care plans and a lot more. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host today, Otto Lohse, and our fabulous radio show producer, Kristina Lou, who pulls these shows together every week. And it's always a great show. So much information and never enough time. But we do get a lot of information out to all of our listeners and those who watch the show on Zoom and all the other, venues and ways that people can get information from Project Independence in You. And we're talking with Gregg Balbera, and you're the owner of Right at Home, and you're a certified senior advisor, and you have so much information. I mean, you sent us so much stuff, which is great. And I love this one page where you have communication is key, and it is so important. Definitely when creating a care plan, because it's so many people are involved. It could be a family member, it could be a neighbor, it could be so many times our seniors are alone. Maybe their family's on a different coast, and do you deal a lot with people who maybe the senior needs help, their family is in another state and they're communicating with you that way. I mean, are you utilizing Zoom? Are you doing things like that?
Absolutely. And obviously everything has been kind of, pushed forward, I would say almost like 5 years because of COVID. The technology has changed. We've always dealt with, dealing with communication with clients via the telephone and in person whenever possible. But we utilize Zoom a lot during COVID to kind of increase the face-to-face. Sometimes our caregivers, when they're in the house, will use, FaceTime or Zoom to connect, the loved one that they're taking care of with a family member who might be out of state. I don't know. I think I might have mentioned this on a previous appearance, but the AARP actually came out with a study a few years ago. And unlike when we were kids, when kids would buy the house next door to their parents or live in the same apartment building, and the families really were a condensed unit. Today, on average, the adult children live 280 miles away from their parents. 280 miles, that's a significant distance. So many times we here at Right at Home, we kind of become the family for our clients and the family advocate for our clients. And it's kind of a concierge level service that we are always happy to provide for our clients and their loved ones.
You mentioned communications when you write up the key need for communications. My opinion is that a formal setting up of a team should be done. I've witnessed many times where the family has little issues in terms of who does what and who says who, and who's the spokesperson for mom or dad. And if that could be done in the assessment, I would think that to be a valuable to clear up what's the chain here, who's communicating.
Yeah, we always try and establish who's the primary, and then maybe who are the more secondary emergency. Again, every situation is different. Oftentimes there are some crazy family dynamics. Children don't always get along. People have different outlooks or impressions of what's going on with their parents. We've gone into situations where, people don't want to admit that their mom or dad has dementia or isn't, the same person that they were 10 or 20 years ago. So because of that, we're always, in communication with as many people as possible. And we're always trying to, define the roles for those that we're talking to, because we don't want to muddy the waters. So really kind of, having everyone's role in place and being very specific about it allows us to really kind of implement the care plan. And one of the things that we should also talk about is that, the care plan is not a static item. The care plan is constantly evolving. It's static on day one, but from moving out, we've been, I've been doing this for over 8 years now. So, and again, that change, the changes in the care plan varies from person to person, but different changes precipitate a change in need. A person who has dementia, if we start with them today, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, their needs are likely to change very significantly as that disease progresses. Same things with someone who has Parkinson's. The physical changes and limitations can change. People start to can develop swallowing issues. Parkinson's can lead to issues where shuffling or the movements can get worse. Certain Parkinson's patients lock up. When we start with them today, that may not be the case today, but a year from now, or 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, that changes. So we really always have to be changing, and that's part of why we have a full-time RN on staff, why we have our social worker on staff. We're in that house where we're seeing each client probably at least once every month, if not every 3 months, at the outset, by a multitude of people. The nurse, the social worker, myself, we're all visiting. We're supervising our staff in the field. And as the care plan changes, we're updating that, and we're resetting expectations for both the caregivers, the family, the client. Everybody has to be on the same page with how that care plan has to be changed and has to be implemented.
I'm assuming that this is a written care plan that is shared by all.
Yep. So we actually print out a care plan. We leave it in a binder in the house. But every caregiver, every time a caregiver from our staff goes to a shift, they get a shift reminder with all the pertinent information. And then when they are clocking in or clocking out, which they're either doing telephonically or through the app, they're getting a review of what's on the care plan. So they're getting the information about the client, but they're also getting what their tasks are for that client. And then at the end of their shift, they're going through and they're completing which tasks they completed. Some tasks are day to day. Giving somebody a shower is probably an everyday task, but perhaps doing laundry might be a 2 or 3 time a week task. So there's a lot of communication, and one of the great things about our system is that every time when the caregiver clocks out, if they see a change in condition in the client, they can report that change in condition. I mean, obviously they can call us at any time, but if they see things like, the client has, suffered significant weight loss, or client seems more confused over the last 3 or 5 days than they have ever been, client has a skin breakdown, maybe there's, a rash or something that has the potential of becoming a bed sore. If their appetite is not the same today as it was 2 or 3 months ago, things like that are what we call a change of condition. So when they call us, that prompts us and our team here to really get involved with both the client, the family. So maybe based on that change of condition, where we're calling a primary care physician, my nurse is going out to do an on-site visit or reassessment. So we're jumping into action on a daily basis based on those changing conditions.
Something was mentioned about a log where people, like if I'm visiting or whatever, and I see something, I should write it in a log.
Yep, in our care binder, we have the ability for family members, visitors, loved ones to leave notes. But we also encourage them to call the office directly. We want to get that information. If you are noticing something or seeing something, we want that information in real time. We don't want to wait for someone to come by, collect the the notes in a binder, which could be let's say a day or a couple of days. We want to get that information as soon as possible.
This question you probably can't really answer, but I'm going to ask it. The typical hours that somebody might need, I'm sure can range from, like, is there such a thing as 24/7?
Absolutely. We do everything from 4 to 6 hours a day, 3 times a week for clients. And then we have clients where we're providing 7 days, 24-hour care and everything in between. And every client is unique. We have some clients that get daytime service. We have other clients that have overnight service, where they're at night because perhaps that client is a fall risk. So they keep trying to get out of bed. They have dementia. They don't realize that they have to use their walker, that they can't walk without the walker. If no one was there with them at night, they might get out of bed 3, 4, 5 times, and they're at significant risk of whether it's opening the front door and wandering out the front door to just falling between getting from the bed to the bathroom. And sometimes the loved one will take care of the person during the day, but they need to be able to get their, a spouse might need to get their sleep at night so they can provide that care during the day. So we're providing nighttime care. So we have a multitude of different types of shifts, times, days. We really just, react and respond to whatever the client and the family needs us to provide.
Would the cost vary based on the 24/7 would obviously have to be, I think, fairly expensive?
So for 24/7 care, we offer 2 types of care. We have we have hourly care. So we might be doing 2 12-hour shifts. And that would really be because the person who's doing an overnight shift, let's say like an 8 p.m. to an 8 a.m. shift, that person has to be awake at night to take care of that client. Again, because for multiple reasons. It might be that if the person's bedbound, they may need to be repositioned every 2 or 3 hours. You don't want them to get bed sores, right, and decompress. That's one reason a person might need overnight help, and a person who's awake at night. The other reason, as I said, is the person might be trying to get out of bed, might need to go to the bathroom 3, 4, 5 times, or they just can't. They're not a good sleeper. They don't get a lot of sleep, and they have dementia. Their kind of circadian clock is off. They think that 3 o'clock in the morning is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They try and get out of bed. They're going to try and walk around a dark house. They're at risk of falling down the stairs or tripping over a rug in the house. So our person is there to kind of calm them down, redirect them, and provide contact guarding and safety supervision. The other type of care we provide 24/7 is what we call a live-in. So a live-in comes and stays with the client. Each shift is a 24-hour shift. Live-in is designed for clients who do sleep through the night, because a live-in caregiver has to get 8 hours of sleep a night. That's mandated by New York state law. And if you think about it, it really makes sense, because if the caregiver's up every hour, 2 hours at night, they're going to be so exhausted themselves. How good could the care that they would be able to provide during the day? So it's important that that living caregiver gets their 8 hours of sleep at night. So we have lots of different programs and different ways that we can tailor our care around the needs of the client.
It seems like so much of what you provide too is respite for the primary caregiver. Because so many times, I mean, we talk about this all the time. We probably even talked about this, Greg, before, is some people don't even actually understand that they're a caregiver. They're just taking care of their partner, their child, their loved one. And, it's almost, and it's very hard on them because their entire life is dedicated to caring for someone else. And they're emotionally usually going through a very hard time too, dealing with someone who they married who's no longer, they're the spouse that they loved. And I mean, they love their spouse, but you know what I'm getting at. What kind of services and do you guys provide for the caregiver, respite services?
So respite is actually, that's a great point. That's one of the along with, let's say, personal care, hygiene, and meal preparation and med reminders. Respite care, when we're taking care of a spouse or a loved one, or if the other family members are in the house, is a huge part. Now, respite care can be very different to different people. First of all, you have to kind of earn that trust. A lot of times when people are taking care of a loved one, they can be hesitant to take advantage of the respite care, and we totally understand that. I will tell people, listen, I understand we're going to come into your house, and whether that's 4 hours a day or 24 hours a day, initially you may have some hesitancy in giving up that time of that care. But again, you need to realize what we're doing, that respite that we're providing you is going to help you recharge, renew, and be able to provide the best care you can provide when you basically are on the clock. So for sometimes we'll tell people, listen, when we first start, you may just want to go into your own room, close the door, read a book for an hour, take a nap for an hour. Maybe you just use that opportunity to go to the supermarket, because if you can't leave your loved one alone for an hour, but yet they're in let's say they're in a wheelchair or whatever their situation is, and you can't really manage getting them into the car in the wheelchair and then into the supermarket, the ability to have an hour or 2 hours to go to the supermarket just to do that food shopping, but know that that your loved one is home safe with a right at home aid, gives you that peace of mind to do that. And then oftentimes that level of understanding and ability to take advantage of the care that we're providing kind of grows. All of a sudden someone says, hey, you know what, this is working out great. I can now go out and have lunch with a friend, or I can go play canasta with my girlfriends. And how great is that the person who's providing this maybe 24/7 care to their loved one can go and play cards with their friends for 2 or 3 hours and get their mind, not that they're taking, not that they're forgetting about their loved one, but that they can kind of just use that 2 or 3 hours to really kind of focus on themselves, do something that they really enjoy, bring their stress level down. That's going to keep them healthier in the long run. So those are the things that we provide. Respite care is a huge part of what we provide.
Right.
I would think, I'm sorry, but the best of marriages, when you go through something like that, I've seen it, can really be stressful, and that a lot of it comes down to the person who's being cared for may not always be the easiest person on the planet. They could be fighting it, and frankly, maybe they're just kind of ornery people to begin with, and this makes them even worse. I think it could really push marriages to the brink.
Absolutely. And listen, dementia in its many varied forms can sometimes change the personality of a person. Sometimes people become more docile. Sometimes people become more ornery. So there's lots of different things at play here. So it really is, it's just so important for spouses to take advantage of the respite, whether it's another family member coming in, whether it's a child coming in, whether it's a private caregiver like a right at home aide, taking advantage of whether it's an hour or 4 hours, or maybe it's the ability to get away for a weekend and go to a spa, or just to go visit a brother or sister who's in Florida. But while you're doing it, knowing that your loved one is safe at home, with, again, a family member or a private caregiver from right at home, it's just so important in that own person's health, because studies show that oftentimes the primary caregiver will pass away before the person who's infirmed, because the stress of caregiving just becomes just so overwhelming that they get sicker themselves, and that becomes the outcome. So
yeah, so that was.
No, go ahead. Your turn.
Thanks, Otto.
Yeah.
So, that kind of leads to two things, that I really want to talk about and get in depth with, is the caregiver accepting help and, not feeling. I know a lot of people who are primary caregivers are feel that's the only control they have over, with their spouse or with the person they're taking care of. And also the person who's being cared for accepting that, they need other help, like letting go of the caregiver and not being so demanding. So, that is kind of, I want to say, that's like one of the murkiest things. I mean, I've seen, you talked about also, Gregg, in the beginning, the different personalities in families, especially children, the generation of the children taking care if there's only one parent left, assumptions that, oh, the daughter will do it, or, the son who's closest will take care of it. And there's never that plan, and there's like resentment. So it's so important to have a care plan. I mean, it's just before you get to this place where it's, there are assumptions, and then there's bitterness and there's resentment. So it's important for the caregiver too to express they need help, and for the person who may need help, because it's not always cognitive. You could have a person who's, cognitively right, there, but physically they're frail or they need the assistance. But, how do you convince people like that it's cool, it's fine to get a little help? We'll actually have to take a quick break, so we'll come back to the whole acceptance part of the program when we return. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, who is the wonderful co-host of Project Independence in You, pretty much for the last 2 years nonstop. So we're grateful to you, Otto, for being here. And of course, Kristina Liu, the radio show producer, and Dan Cox, who is director at 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. So we have a great team here, Gregg. And of course, you're a familiar guest and just providing so much information. We appreciate you taking a full hour. I know that it's a lot of time. You have a busy day. So we're, just trying to get as much information as we can, and then we can let you go.
My pleasure to educate and advocate.
So appreciative. So before break, we were talking about, people accepting that they need help as a caregiver, and also the client accepting that they need assistance, and fairly so allowing the caregiver to have respite care. So I'm sure those are, so tricky.
It can be. And again, every situation is different. So many times, whether it's myself, again, my RN, like my social worker, client care coordinator, we'll go in and we'll sit down, we'll be part of these family meetings. And we try and address the concerns, the issues, the hesitancy that a particular client might have. Sometimes when they hear it from an outside source, they might be more open. Sometimes people don't want to hear certain things from their wife, their husband, their children. Sometimes when they feel if they're hearing it from a professional, it's coming from a different point of view. Oftentimes we can kind of tell the family, maybe have a primary care physician speak to a loved one. Sometimes when they hear it from a doctor, Doctors definitely hold just an extreme level of respect in society. So sometimes hearing it from a doctor can really change, a potential client's point of view or position on accepting of care. So we kind of have to come at it from different angles. Every situation is different. So
Right.
can't do the same thing every time. That would definitely be a failing method. So we're really kind of think quick on our feet, and we try and highlight certain things when we're talking to a loved one. Try and highlight how we are going to help them, the things that we're going to do to allow them to retain their independence. Try and highlight how this is going to benefit the spouse or the children or the family caregivers. What the care will offer them, but what it will offer the family caregivers also, and what the benefit would be to having a private caregiver from an agency like Right at Home. So there's so many different ways that conversation go to. We really kind of, for me speaking personally, I know that I try and ask a couple of probing questions, and then I try and tailor my conversation based on what I'm hearing from the client, what I'm hearing from the family.
Right. It's also that generation too. The older generation is, accepting help or asking for help is so difficult, because what you brought up earlier is the fear of losing independence, because they assume once they get help, that's it, they're throwing in the towel, but at Project Independence, we have a transportation program. So a lot of times when people do have to give up, say, for example, their keys to drive, it's almost like we kind of make them look at it, like be self-aware, notice the changes. Maybe all of a sudden you're not driving at night anymore, and you become self-aware. So you kind of say, okay, maybe I do need to stop. But then we have the alternative, which is, Project Independence can take you to your doctor, can take you food shopping. You can go alone. You just call it. So you're just taking a taxi. So it's, giving those kind of positive programs or things for the things that they can no longer do.
Absolutely. Listen, we have situations where sometimes maybe someone has stopped going shopping or they've stopped going to the library. So we can highlight how, getting care, whether, again, from a family member or from a private aid, how, that can open doors again. Instead of staying home and, being in that one TV room all day, watching 20 episodes of The Price is Right, how having a caregiver who can, is trained and knows how to get you out of the house safely with your walker, with your wheelchair, in and out of the car, can take you to the library, can take you to a park, can take you to a senior center where there might be some excellent programming, where you can hear music and do art and socialize with people your own age and maybe some of your friends, or play cards. There's so many
if you're
things.
driving, if the aide is going to drive somebody somewhere, is that usually their car? Is it the person who you're caring for, or does it vary?
We offer both options. If we sometimes we drive the clients in their car and then there's no charge for the driving. Other times we're driving the client in the caregiver's car, and then we just charge a minimal amount. We have to just compensate the aides, obviously, for gas and wear and tear. And then other times we actually will we can arrange like an Uber or a Lyft to come pick the client and the aide up, take them to a doctor's appointment, to the library, and then when they're ready to come home, we just call the Uber or Lyft again, and then we bring them home. So again, we try and remain as flexible and use whatever method works best for that individual client.
Gregg, the vision of Project Independence and Right at Home are to help people stay in their home as long as it's realistically possible. And occasionally, sometimes, unfortunately, you get to a point where that it may not be real anymore. You have a lot of issues, you're very bad dementia or whatever the problem. Would Right at Home get involved with guiding somebody to that next
Absolutely.
level?
Again, we pride ourselves on providing a concierge level service. So we do things from helping people get, for when they're in the house, like, whether they need to add, guardrails or chair lifts in the house. So we have contacts in those industries. Sometimes, as you said, sometimes people decide that living at home is no longer an option. So they might be looking at an assisted living facility or a memory unit or a nursing home. So we are very well connected within the industry. We have lots of different resources and connections. When the family or that person makes that decision that staying right at home is no longer the right option for that person, we are absolutely going to help them get to that next level. So whatever they decide is best for them, we're going to work with them and get them transferred. Oftentimes, a lot of our clients go to assisted living facilities and still need some of our services. Assisted living facilities are great, and they're the perfect venue for a lot of our clients, but still someone might need contact guarding, or they want to have the companionship, or they need that one-on-one care that we provide that the assisted living facility is not providing on that level. So we still work with a lot of clients that after they've left their home at the next level.
Okay. It's important. I mean, it's something nobody wants, but it's a fact of life for. Yep. There are people in those places now because they have to be there. It's not what your goal in life is, but it's
a reality.
It's a reality, right? Right. When you do this care plan, is there also an inclusion of some kind of an estimate of funding that would be part of this whole thing, and in the evolving way?
Sure. So when we're talking about when we're talking to the clients, we're always talking about what the costs for Right Home are, and the many ways that excuse me, the many ways that they can pay for our services. So again, as we mentioned before, it can come from savings, it can come from long-term care insurance. We put a lot of our clients in touch, if they're vets, with the VA. There's different programs at the VA that they may or may not be available of. They may take reverse mortgages on their house. Sometimes children are helping to fund the care that their parents need because they want their parent to remain at home. Excuse me. So there's significant plan, and the costs can change also. Someone who's getting initially 4 hours of care a week for 3 days a week, what that looks like from a from a cost perspective is going to be very different if 3 years from now or 5 years from now they require 24/7 care to remain in the home. So how they're going to pay for those services and how we can work with them are big parts of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm a veteran, and I never realized that there was anything that can be used through the veterans for at-home care.
You're going to have to call me. I'm going to help you out.
Well, I'm not yet.
Actually, I was going to ask you. You did give out your website name earlier, but is there a phone number that people can call too?
Absolutely, yes. We can be reached at 516-719-5999.
5999.
Yep.
Right.
And also 631-352-0022. So those are our two direct phone numbers. We gave out the website earlier. We also have a Facebook page, Right at Home Nassau Suffolk and Right at Home Smithtown, so people can find us that way. And we also have people sometimes just walk in our front door. They see our signage and someone realizes, hey, wait a minute, this is what these people do. This might be a great opportunity for me to just kind of stop in and say hello.
You're physically located in Plainview?
Yep, we're at 754 Old Country Road in Plainview.
Right. Now, does your agency cover Westbury?
We do not cover. Right Home as a franchise, so I specifically cover Plainview to Stony Brook, all along the North Shore.
Right, North Shore. How far north? Like north?
All the way to Stony Brook. So
it's North Shore and east.
Yeah, North Shore and east.
I mean, Plainview and east of
correct.
Plainview.
There are other Right at Homes on Long Island. So if anyone has any other wants to know, just call us and we can point you in the right direction.
Right. So I have a question too. I mean, I don't believe you covered this yet. Just curious how you vet. You must have a lot of people working for you, especially if you're from Plainview and there's other Right at Home. So what's the process for vetting a home care aide? It's a vulnerable population.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you get asked that a lot. So what's that process like?
So one of the benefits of coming to an agency instead of hiring privately is we do a lot of due diligence on our caregivers. Obviously, they're sending in resumes, they're calling in, we're interviewing them on the phone. We bring them in for an interview. We background check all of our caregivers. We drug test all of our caregivers. Once they go to work for us, they're all bonded and insured, which means that when they go to work for the client, God forbid they get injured and there's a workers' comp claim, which is generally hundreds of thousands of dollars, several hundreds of thousands of dollars. The claim is against us. We're fully insured. Whereas if someone hired privately and they have an aide in their home, God forbid that aide gets home, they're on the hook for that, for that workers' comp injury. If an aide decides they don't want to work anymore and files for unemployment insurance, that claim is against us, not against the person. We provide a ton of training. Our home health aides, our personal care assistants get 12 hours of in-service every week. In fact, this week we have in-service. We've had our aides coming in all week into the office. So they get like 6 hours of in-service on topics from, proper hand washing to dealing with dementia patients, dealing with Parkinson's patients, all different topics that are pertinent to this field in this industry. So we're providing a ton of that training. We also provide online training. We have a right at home university, so so our aides can go online and find topics. We have hundreds of topics. So if they want to go over above and beyond and find topics that are of interest to them and increase their education level. And then we also send our RN and our social worker out. Again, they're out in the fields all week, every week, stopping by to do supervisory fields and provide assistance with care to our clients in the field. So they're not just helping the clients; they're helping the caregivers. Sometimes the caregivers need helps and tips on how to handle specific situations or specific clients. So especially with dementia patients, being able to to learn how to redirect difficult behaviors is kind of an art form. So we pride ourselves in providing that type of education to our caregivers.
Right.
And also the clients and their family members. I mean, a lot of family members don't really understand dementia, don't really get exactly what's going on. Dementia is so different than a broken arm or broken hip and knee replacement. Those things are physical, and you see that. When with dementia, it's almost like the brain is broken. So seeing that is very challenging for a lot of our family members. As an example, we had one client who would constantly ask for her husband, even though the husband had been deceased for 20 years. So my caregiver called me to say, you have to speak to the daughter, because every time she comes over, when the client asked for the husband, the daughter would say, Mom, Dad passed away 20 years ago. So I had to explain to this daughter that every time she tells that to her mom, it's like her mom is hearing it for the first time. Think about the emotional distress of hearing that. So that's where we, sometimes you have to use a therapeutic white lie. You don't want to keep telling your mom that her husband passed away because it's traumatic. So just say something, Daddy's still at work, he'll be home in a few hours, and then you redirect the client and try and get off of that topic. So just kind of save. So tips like that are great, are the types of things that we're trying to provide our caregivers and our families.
Right. That's cool. What if the family what if the family's going on vacation, and they want to take the grandmother with them? Do your services would an aide travel with them if that's requested?
Yeah, we've done that on many occasions. So that goes both ways. Sometimes they want to take the loved one with them, and sometimes they want to leave the loved one at home, and they need maybe more days or more hours, for a 3-day weekend or for a week, where we'll come in and we'll provide 24/7 care while they're away. So they can get that respite that we were talking about earlier. And then other times it's other times we have our caregivers going with them on vacation to provide the care that they might be getting at home on the vacation site.
Right. So much information, Gregg. I mean, it's endless, and you provided so much, it's almost just like the information you're providing is supportive information too. There are ways to handle some of these really difficult situations. I love what you said about even the dementia patient. Just say, living that every time you tell them that Daddy passed away 20 years ago, instead saying, oh, he'll be home from work. I mean, just that little bit of could change that person, who's the client. So, this is really good. You're giving a lot of really good stuff and, about caretakers and all. So again, thank you so much. We've come to the end of an hour and all this information is terrific. We're going to be having you back. I know Kristina's already got her plans for the next time. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. You're welcome anytime. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.